Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Behind the Pen, where we go behind the pages of powerful books and really into the stories, the journeys, and the breakthroughs of the authors who wrote them. I am your host, Coach Kesha. I am the founder of the VTF Collective, where Purpose Meets Publishing. This platform was really created to spotlight authors who are using their voice, their testimony, and their story to impact lives and really shift culture, right? So I'm super excited about tonight's episode. It's going to be powerful because we're talking about trauma, survival, faith, the courage it takes to speak when the enemy tries to silence you. And I think we've all been there a time or two. Um, Tonight's guest is a prophetess, an author, a poet, a speaker, and a mental health advocate, MissNysheaJ. She is the author of the book, The Breakthrough, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's a powerful story that really explores the journey of a woman named Tiara who faces life altering trauma that pushes her into the hands of an abusive narcissist. Um, and I'm just really excited to have this conversation with her tonight. She's really passionate about helping women rediscover their voice and understand what the enemy meant for harm. God can turn it around for a purpose. So she also has a really powerful testimony in her own life as well, not just what was shared in the book. So tonight we're going to be talking about healing, writing through pain, and what it really takes to break the cycle of silence. So if you would please help me welcome tonight's guest, MissNysheaJ.
Hello.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Good. I am good. I am good. Thank you so much for being on the podcast tonight and welcome to Behind the Pen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're just going to jump right in. For those who may not know you and who may be hearing about you and your book for the first time, just tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Yeah. So I am a mom of three. I advocate for women finding their voices, of course, due to the trauma that I've been through growing up. And it pretty much silenced me at an early age. I wasn't one to talk a lot or talk often. So it pushed me into writing this book. Through the grace of God, I finished it. It took me about 8 years, but I'll talk about that later. um, it took me a while to finish it, but that's pretty much what I do. I advocate for women. I also have women's events where we empower each other. We pretty much encourage each other and uplift each other. I also am into the youth ministry as well. So just getting kids at an early age and empowering them to be responsible, loving adults that are mentally stable as well. I'm also a poet. So every now and then I do write. I like spoken word. So spoken word poetry is also another thing that I do. Also working on my second book as well, to the breakthrough.
Nice. Okay, she's a poet and she knows it. I love a good poetry slam. I know
Yeah.
we have a couple coming up in the DC area that I'm going to have to check out. So, you describe yourself as a prophetess, author, poet, speaker, mental health advocate. You know, you wear many hats, of course,
Mhm.
and mommy being one of the most important ones, of
Yes.
course. Um, Amongst the other roles, how did these roles begin to really develop in your life to bring you to a place where you wanted to put pen to paper?
Yeah. As far as mental health advocate, I have been writing since a little girl. My mom is actually a really great poet, and she's a writer. And I believe that was passed down to me. So even as a little girl, I used to love to write, writing little pieces of poetry. That has always been my outlet. So growing up, I was not one to, like I said, speak a lot, and my outlet was writing. And growing up, I experienced a lot of trauma, psychological, physical, a lot of trauma growing up, and that was my outlet. So it kind of forced me as I got older to write, and that has been my thing. But more specifically, I was led to write. I was one day showering and I just heard God. He's like, let it out. He's like, write it. And I'm like, write what? And he's like, write what you've been through, write everything. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to write that yet and let that out. And he's like, write it. And I'm like, Lord, he's like, write it. So um, that's where it started pretty much for me. Just being an advocate for women and for the youth as well. Just letting them know that you can get over your trauma. It doesn't define you,
Yeah.
but it can help build you up, and it can turn well, God can turn your pain into purpose. So that's where that pretty much started for me. Um, and then, like I said, poetry has always been my thing since a little girl, and I think I just pretty much inherited that from my mom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. God is always trying to get us to tell our business. Uh, but I love how at in the end, when we get to the end of a thing, it's like, oh, I see what you did there. I see what the purpose is, and you having me to do that, even though it might have been painful and you didn't want to. So I'm really grateful that you are yet another author who put a story down on paper to encourage, and uplift others. So every book has a story behind it, and that's really the premise behind the pen. And on this podcast, we always want to know what happens behind the pen before the book ever reaches the reader. So, what inspired you to write the breakthrough?
Yeah, so I actually have been working on this book for, I would say, a little over 8 years. I'm 33, but it took a while for me to actually publish it. It was published last year in 2025. And it took a while for me just because there was so much healing that I had to do. So there were times where I would write and then I would get to a part where I wasn't healed and it would bring up old wounds and I would cry and I would just shut down and I wouldn't write anymore for years. And that it went through a cycle. It's like, okay, I'll open up a wound, some things I even forgot about, and the Lord brought it forth. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to write about this. And I touch on it and then I'll shut down again. And I'm like, okay. And that went on for quite some time until I had that moment with God, and He's like, no, you need to write. It's not for you. It's not for you. Yes, you'll heal through the process, but this is for other people as well. And it's more so for them than it was for me. And so He's like, no, I need you to sit down and write this. And so I was like, okay. I sat down and I went through a lot writing, not just the healing part where it opened up wounds, but I would say I went through a bit of a spiritual warfare right in my book as well. Um, and that was a thing where, I was like, all right, I'm going to get serious about this. And then here comes the distractions. Here comes this, here comes that. And I'm like, I need to make time for this book because this is what, I need to get out there. I need people to hear this story. And so it was a lot of distractions, but a lot of discipline went into making this book as well. Having to really sit there and dedicate time to write was probably one of the hardest things because I had so many things going on, school, kids, work. But I just sat there and, I was obedient. I sat and I wrote, and here we are with the breakthrough.
And congratulations to you. This is your first official publication.
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I always like to say that opposition is confirmation that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, the enemy knew that he didn't want you to get out what's in this book. And so he probably bought out everything. Look,
Yeah, yes. I can remember one night I was writing and I was writing really late. My kid's dad and I, we do an arrangement where he keeps them for a week and I have them for a week, kind of off and on thing. And I'm writing and I feel a presence behind me, and the presence wasn't welcoming. It felt like it was a heavy presence behind me, and I turned around, no one was there, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then about 30 minutes later, I hear someone say, "Mommy," and I'm like, my kids aren't here. Like, who's calling my name? So those kind of things that also was kind of like stumbling blocks in my way as well. So I had a lot of that going on as well, just things trying to prevent me, or the enemy trying to prevent me from actually focus on, completing my book.
Well, again, I'm just so glad that, I hear so many stories
Yeah.
like that where people just stop, they put it to the side, they deleted the
Yeah.
file on the laptop, so I'm glad that you didn't. Now, the book centers around a character named Tiara. Is that correct?
Yes, Tiara.
Okay. And she experiences trauma and abuse. How much of this story kind of reflects real life experiences or maybe emotional truths from your own journey?
A lot of it actually. So the book is pretty much a non-fictional with fictional accounts, pretty much surrounding my life and what happened to me as a young girl growing up, even until my early teenage years. So I would say about 100% concerning Tierra was true. There are some fictional portions, of course. It's a book,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I would say about 100% concerning Tierra is true. The characters surrounding her in some instances aren't, but yeah, most of it is pretty much about my life.
I love it. I love it. Now, as you already stated, and as we know, that writing about trauma can be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about the healing process and kind of what it brought up, and also some of the distractions that the enemy brought as well. What was the emotional process, or what was a time that you can recall while writing the book where you were like, wow, okay, this is really happening, and or I have to deal with this in order to finish writing the book?
Mm-hmm. I would say, I want to say halfway through the book. Halfway through the book, I was like, wait, I'm literally halfway through the book. The book is about 322 pages. So it's a really thick book. And I'm like, wait, I'm really halfway there. Like, and it took me about 8 years, off and on. I'm like, I'm really halfway, through the book. That was a wild moment for me. And it also inspired me to keep going. A lot of the book, I would say, was pretty emotional for me. So there were times where I had to go and edit some things and reread some things and that sort. But every chapter literally speaks to um, some some part of trauma in my life. So some sort of trauma in my life. There's about 19 or 20 chapters. It all speaks to different portions of my life where I experienced trauma. So literally each chapter having to dig into it and touch on old wounds and just really go into my prayer closet and speak with God because even while writing a book, I don't feel like I was 100% healed. Um, After writing the book, I would say that is when my breakthrough came, I feel, because I done prayed the whole time through the 19 chapters. I'm like, Lord, I keep hitting this wall here, and it still hurts. And so, pretty much just praying my way through and surrendering it to God and having faith the whole time while I'm writing it is what really got me through because it was tough having to read out loud and then over and over and over again the things that happened to me is kind of sort of like you're reliving it right all over again and it's like day in and day out you're reading it, you're writing it, you're reading it, you're writing it. It was pretty tough for me, but you know after a while I surrendered it to God. I was able to surrender it to God. And it wasn't easy because I lived with a lot of that trauma for so long. It was like, it was almost as if it was embedded in me. And it seemed to be a part of my identity at one point. And so to separate those two was mentally challenging for me. So I had to truly, truly sit with God some nights, and I had to cry. I had to go to my, I had to go to the altar. I had to go to my secret place. I had to go and just surrender it all. And it was a process, but it was definitely worth it.
Now, did you ever have a moment that you can distinctively remember you were like, nah, God, never mind, we're not doing this. Like, no, like I'm done, and you meant it in that moment. Did you have
Yes,
one of those moments, or did you have several of those moments?
I did. I had several. And I think the moment where I pretty much was like, all right, I'm going to pack this up. I'm going to close up the book. I'll do this some other time. And he's like, no, 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 you're not. We're going to finish this. Um, it was the part where I spoke about being molested as a young child by a family member. And then again, it happened again by a neighbor in an old apartment building that we used to live in when we were younger. That, with those two chapters, pretty much made me want to close the book. Just reliving those moments and not being fully healed, but, you know, being in close proximity with the person who've done it in your family, and not necessarily knowing how to heal, but when you touch on those wounds that you try to put things in the back of your mind, you try to forget it, but it's still there, and it made me relive it, and I'm like, wait, I'm starting to feel angry again. I'm starting to feel, all sorts of emotions. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Um, because at a point in time, I was living in a state where things that hurt me, I was putting them in the back of my mind. I was trying to bury them and I was suppressing them. And, for a while, I had a really bad attitude problem, right? I would blow up and people were like, what's wrong with her? And it was because I was suppressing a lot of things. I wasn't healing with dealing with a lot of trauma that I had. But touching back on it brought up a lot of anger because I was still mad about it. I was hurt. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going there anymore. I shut down. I didn't write for about a month or two. And God was like, hey, you get those nudges. And he's like, hey, what's going on? Hey, I need you to write. Hey, wake up. And so, like I said, it was one of those things where I really had to just pray and have faith and keep going and persevere because I felt like it was a trial. And it was a thing that I needed to get over in order for me to write this book. I needed to heal. And healing, the book was a part of my healing. Me getting the book out there, me writing about it, me touching on those wounds and opening back up, it was all a part of God's plan for me to heal and get my breakthrough. I think that's a part of my breakthrough, right? It's the breakthrough. But, me going back and writing was necessary. Um, but that really made me want to close the book. It wouldn't have been no breakthrough. I was like, wait, God, this is getting too much for me. I'm starting to get angry again. I'm starting to get sad, depressed. I was all over the place. But that chapter really took me there.
And I can actually, say that I understand, because that happened with me with that particular chapter in my book, where I had
Yeah.
to write about family members and abusers, and who sexually abused me or whatever. And so I definitely understand, because you're like, okay, let's move on from here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
many survivors struggle with the shame and the fear of telling their story,
Hmm.
right? And I know you struggle with it. I know I struggle with it. And I know that you talked about how prayer and just really leaning on God and seeking Him
Hmm.
helped you with the courage to move forward. Was there anybody in your inner circle, or family, that you kind of leaned on or talked to as well?
Yeah. I definitely talked to my mom. Me and my mom are really close. I also talked to my sister. But there were things that I put in the book that I actually didn't tell anyone. And so it was more like a wowzer for them when they read the book because they've not heard it for the first time. That would be the first time that they've read about it or heard of what happened. But I did tell my mom that I was going to write a book about my life, and she was very supportive of it. But I didn't go into detail about what I was going to write about, and she didn't know the depths of what I was going to write about. So she was actually surprised when she read the book as well.
Yeah, I did. I did tell my mom. I let her know everything I was going to put in the book. We sat down. We had a conversation. Some stuff she knew, or had a suspicion of, but others she didn't.
Yeah.
But my dad and my brothers, I was like, they can read it. Um,
Yeah.
they can read it, and then of course came questions, and I'm just like, I'm not telling you that information because we want to keep everybody out of jail. So,
Yeah. I think I
even if
did
it
the
was
same
years
thing.
ago.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So one of the most powerful statements connected to your message is this quote: silence will hurt generations to come.
Hmm.
And it's just so powerful because a lot of times, especially as women, especially as women of color, we have a tendency to suppress.
Yes.
We think it's a part of our struggle and it makes us stronger and it makes us this or that. But really, we're not only hurting ourselves, we're hurting generations to come. So
Mhm.
that's a very strong statement. What does that statement mean to you personally?
Yeah. So that statement to me personally means that I think you touched a little bit on that. In our communities, we like to sweep things under the rug, right? So we'll know that, maybe Uncle Jim or Uncle Peter has an issue. And that issue may be they like to, touch on little girls or they do certain things. And, it end up happening to, a little girl in the family or someone else in the family. Um, However, everyone may not know that in the family. It's something that may have happened within, their immediate family, and then they sweep it under the rug, and then, he goes and he does it to somebody else that's in the family, a little cousin or something like that. Um, that is what I mean by silence will hurt generations to come. If you know that there is someone that is in the family that needs help, or they're doing things like, perverted things or molesting someone in your family, I don't think that should be swept under the rug because it causes trauma, and trauma gets passed down, and it gets passed down for generations and generations and generations. And then, there's someone that has to break the cycle. And breaking the cycle is not easy. It comes with a lot of pain. Um, Sometimes it causes more trauma, more things that you have to heal from. Um, and it's really, I would say it's really painful to know that families will be silent about things like that that can hurt other people within the family, especially if it's something that you've been through as well. So I usually like to talk to my children and let them know, even if it's just touching, if somebody touched you here, someone to do this, someone to do that, it's wrong, you shouldn't do this. And even having conversations with the young men in the family about how to conduct themselves and, what not to do and what to do. And then even sharing my story. I will share my story. Um, to let them know that I've been through trauma, and this is what the trauma looks like on me. This is the pain that it caused me. This is why for so long I've acted like this, or I've had anger issues, or I used to fight a lot, things like that. um but I feel like those conversations are needed to have. We shouldn't stay silent about them because it causes a generational pain and trauma.
A generational curse. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like you said, it's passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many people keep silent about trauma and abuse, especially, amongst the family and their inner circles?
I think, um, to me, sometimes I feel like they're trying to protect the person. Um, in some instances, I feel like they're trying to protect them. In other instances, I do feel like they're shameful about what happened to them, so they don't try to, they don't want to speak on it. And I can understand that sometimes you're shameful, you don't really feel comfortable with telling someone. And of course, that takes, it takes time to heal. But in those instances where they are trying to protect someone, I think it's more of a family image kind of thing. So some people say, that's family business. You don't say this. You go to the grave with this, and I think it just hurts us all as a people, because even if it's not your family, they can go and they can cause pain and trauma to someone else's family, someone else's child, their son or their daughter. Um, so I think it's either shame or maybe they're trying to protect them. But that's just, my personal opinion on why they don't pretty much say anything.
You definitely hit the nail on the head when you said shame.
Yeah.
And I would agree 1,000%. Shame is a big, ugly demon that, we let overshadow us for years and years. So, um,
Yeah.
thank you for overcoming that monster, uh,
Yeah.
and getting to the other side of your breakthrough. Um,
Yes.
what would you say to a woman who knows she's in an abusive or toxic situation, be it with a partner or family? Sometimes, is where we can find ourselves, but she feels trapped or afraid to speak. What would be some words of encouragement or first steps that you would say to her?
Yeah, the first step for me, of course, is always going to be greeting that person with love, not being judgmental. Oftentimes, we're in a situation, abuse comes in the form of hate, slander, um, and of course, it even is physical as well. But um, I think the first thing that I would do, of course, is to let them know that they're loved and that they deserve more than what they're getting. And then to also show them love. Because it's one thing for someone to tell you that they love you, but it's another thing for them to show you that they love you. And then, of course, just being an open ear to them. Sometimes they just need to vent as well. Um, but definitely let them know that they deserve more. I've been in an abusive relationship growing up for, I would say, about 6 years or so with someone that was about 10 years older than me. And my reason for being in a relationship like that is because I didn't feel love by my dad or um, even the older male figures that were in my life at the moment. So I was called names and I was hit and I was told that I was hit out of love. And so when I got into a relationship and a guy hit me, I was like, okay, maybe it's because he loved me. So I will also let them know that that's not love.
Yeah,
Love doesn't hurt. Um, Love is soft, it's pure, it's kind, it's forgiving, it's compassionate. Love doesn't hurt you. And that goes for family as well. We have family members that talk bad about us, family members that abuse us mentally as well. The main jokes and they make it seem like it's all fun and games and stuff like that. But sometimes it hurts people. Um, and so even tolerating that from your family, just letting them know that boundaries doesn't mean that I don't love you. It means that I love myself. And we also have to put in boundaries, of course, even if it's with family. Family will also abuse you. And they may be the first ones because they feel like, hey, we family. But, at the same time, we're all human. We all need to be loved. We all need to be treated with kindness and compassion um, and forgive, but you don't have to give access again.
absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. So now that we spoke to the woman who's in it and trying to figure out how to move forward, let's speak to the woman who um, has come through the trauma or through the abuse, and she's on the other side of it. What are some of the first steps she would take towards healing now that she's through it, but not completely healed?
Yeah, that one I would say it takes time. I would tell her not to rush her healing process. I would tell her to surrender it to God, um, because He can heal all of your pain. I know sometimes we want to rush through our healing process and we want to we go a month or two, and like, oh, okay, I'm healed from that because you neglected the situation, you haven't thought about it. But healing takes time, and it is painful. You have to dig in those wounds. You got to get in there. It ain't just, you sit there, you look at it, you think about it, you're like, oh, okay. No, it really takes you sometimes years just reflecting on it, talking with God about it, letting Him heal you. Um, and I would say for her, to just give herself grace as well. Give yourself grace. We're constantly healing. Something might hurt you today and you have to heal from it. We're constantly healing. It's not a thing where you're like, oh, I'm healed. We're constantly healing from things on a day-to-day basis. Just give yourself grace, and know that God heals all wounds.
Amen. Amen. That was encouraging even to me. And it really landed with me when you said we're constantly healing,
Hmm.
because we got to deal with people every day.
Yes.
Sometimes they're not saved. Sometimes they don't give us grace.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't interact with us with love. So every
Yeah.
day it's something. And even today, I had a quiet moment to myself, and I said, in regards to some interactions I had, I said they really tried to play in my face today, and I felt the way about it. And then I said, you know what? That's okay, because
Yeah.
I know who I am. I know who God says I am, and I'm not just
Yes.
going to take it. But every day, like you said, we're healing, we're growing, we're learning, we're
Yes.
interacting. So amen. Amen. So your story's not just about trauma. Um,
Yes.
we had to kind of transition through those questions and through that conversation, but it was very much needed because it's
Yes.
a, it's a progression, and it's a process. Your story is also about faith and transformation.
Hmm.
Um, so you mentioned that the Lord placed this book on your heart as your testimony. How did your faith play a role in your healing journey? And even after, like right before the book was published,
Hmm.
it was done, but like you knew it was about to be public. Did you go through any emotional, like, oh, what did I do type of, did you feel those things?
Yeah. So I did. At first, I was like, I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I just published it, and book is on Amazon. So they give you about 24 hours or so until it goes live, and they check everything. They do the checks on there, and I'm like, Mom, I just published it. I was like, I want to take it back. I want to take it back, and she's like, No, it's already out there. Just she said, just go ahead and pray about it. She was like, it's already out there. It's the enemy getting in your head, trying to make you pull it back. She's like, leave it be and pray about it. And I did. I prayed about it, and I'm like, yeah, um, I can't take this book back. I can't take it back. Somebody needs this. Um, and it was hard though. It was really hard because it's like every hour or so, it's like, should I take it back? Should I? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and pray, like my mom said. And you know, I felt a bit shameful, even for I would say maybe about a week or so after it was published. Um, People were actually purchasing copies from me as well as buying them on Amazon.
Mhm.
And I know, people from my church were buying it, and I was like, ah. It kind of stung a little bit. I'm like, they're gonna read it. Then I started to get those thoughts. I was like, what are they gonna think about me? The book is a little bit raw. It's not in its, you know, clean cut form.
Right,
And I was
right.
just like, I don't know. But like I said, I had to pray about it and know that this book is not for me. Once again, it's not for me. It's for somebody else.
Right.
The enemy was trying to put all types of thoughts in my head. And I was like, you know what? I'm not listening to it. I'm not listening to it. What I've
Mhm.
been through doesn't define me. It doesn't, it doesn't make me who I am. So, it's made me better. Um,
Mhm.
and it's a testament to God's glory and his faithfulness in my life. So what should I really be ashamed about? And that's what I just kept telling myself. It's my testament to how good God has been in my life. Um, and I kept it out there. Of course, I did make a few changes and edits and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, but I definitely had some shame after, of course, publishing it and everyone reading, everything that happened to me. But um, I think it happens to more people than we actually realize. A lot of women are suffering with trauma from abuse and trauma from molestation and rape and a lot of things that women go through and we don't necessarily outright discuss. So it was very needed. Um, and I'm glad that I continued to um, allow it to stay published on Amazon and not, take it back and that kind of thing. Um, but I do
Absolutely.
feel like faith along my journey was pretty much trusting God and having confidence in Him and who He is. Um, because when He told me to write the book, I was like, wait, I don't really know if I want to write the book. And He's like, no, write it. And it took a lot for me to trust Him and where He was leading me because at the time He told me to write it, I couldn't understand. Like,
Yeah.
why am I writing about all of this stuff? Like, this doesn't feel comfortable to me. It felt very uncomfortable. It was a weird space for me. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. Um, but I had to trust God and I had to act on that as well um, because He told me to write it and I had to trust Him. But a part of my faith is also acting on what I believe and what, of course, He tells me to do and being obedient. To faith and obedience, of course, goes hand in hand. So um, I began to write, and then, as I wrote, I was like, okay, I can see where this is going.
Mhm.
Um, and then after I published it, I had a lot of women just tell me how much they can relate to the book and how a lot of the things that happened to me also happened to them as well. But as I was writing it, I could see how it could relate to other women. And then also just seeing on social media was another thing because I was like, Lord, if I'm meant to, continue to write this book, I was like, send me a sign. And the signs on, I would see some of the signs on social media, females being killed in domestic violence relationships and children being sexually exploited, so much stuff that I saw. And I felt like um, yeah, I really need to finish writing this book. That was a sign. I'm gonna go ahead and do what you said. You're right. And still to this day, of course, it's happening. And so, by the grace of God, I was able to finish this book and just trying to get the word out there, spreading my testimony, letting women know that, of course, healing is possible after trauma. Um, and it may take years. It may take 3 years, 1 year,
Right.
however long it take. It is worth it. You get your freedom back. You get your peace back. There's joy on the other side. There's so many things that you can get from healing and sitting in that space with God because I believe God is the only reason why I'm healed.
Right.
Um, I mean, there are therapists and people that He put, along your path to help you along the way. But for me and my journey specifically, it was sitting with Him. It was those long nights, sitting in my prayer closet, crying, praying 3 or 4 times a day, just seeking His face and listening to Him and having Him guide me and surrendering to Him and allowing Him to heal me. Because, it's one thing where um, you want to be healed, but you also have to allow God to do the work in you. And that was also painful. That
Yeah.
was also painful, but it was definitely necessary so that I can produce the breakthrough and also help other women along the way.
Absolutely. And now for those watching, in the top corner is a QR code. And if you want to go and purchase a copy of the book from Amazon, you can just scan that code. It'll take you right over to Amazon. You can purchase a copy so you can read all the juicy bits and pieces of this story and the breakthrough. Um, Now you said God turned what was meant to kill you into purpose.
Hmm.
How do you see that purpose unfolding in your work now and in your life now that you're on the other side of the pain and the trauma and the writing process?
Yeah. I can see it now, even in this platform, being blessed to even come and give my testimony, being able to uplift other women who have been through the same thing that I've been through. Um, I mentioned in my book that there was a time where, I hitchhiked, and the guy went into a alleyway behind the church, and I was in the car with my son, and I heard um, God yell in a thundering tone to get out the car. I
Mhm.
hadn't listened to him in the first, the first few times he told me to get out, but the third time was a thundering tone where it seemed almost as if he screamed to me, like, get out the car. Um, and I always speak about, I don't know what would have happened to me had I stayed in the car and been disobedient and didn't listen to God. There were times where I was, in that abusive relationship where, I was hit, thrown to the floor, many different things, in the wrong place at the wrong time, bullets flying past my head. So many things that I feel like the devil um, and the enemy was trying to kill me. But God turned it around for my good. He allowed me to write this book, and everything that I've been through is in this book. It's my testimony to share with other women, that I'm still here for a reason, to uplift, to encourage, to let women know that God is a healer, that you can find your voice even after trauma. The enemy tries to silence you when you have a great calling over your life. And for me, that was at an early age. So he tried to silence me early. As a little girl, I stopped talking. I was a social butterfly at one point in time. And then I can just remember me just being very quiet for years, even into my adulthood. Um, and God turning it around. He's like, you will be silenced no more. I need you to speak. I need you to use your voice. The same thing that the devil tried to silence is the same thing that I need you to use, to speak to the masses. I need you to speak to the people. I need you to give them my words. I need you to give them your testimony. And he is using it right now, for his glory. And I'm very thankful for it. So my book pretty much, like I said, is a testament to how God has been good to me, and how, I could have been in the grave. I could have been gone, but he has kept me here. And it's for this very reason, to uplift people, to speak to them, to encourage them, and to let them know that God is the keeper, God is good. Um, and of course, he is a healer. He is a
Yes.
healer. He is a healer.
Hmm. Hmm. Amen. Amen. You are encouraging me tonight. I love it. I love it. Before we close, I just want to ask a couple questions. Talk about the writing journey itself.
Hmm.
Um, did the writing process teach you anything about yourself?
Hmm. It did. Um, it taught me a lot, actually. But one of
Mhm.
the things that I used to speak so badly about myself was that I could not finish something.
Mhm.
I went to college at least like 3 times, started, didn't finish. And I always had this thing where it's like, okay, you can't finish anything. Um, And I realized that I may not be able to finish anything, but I can finish it with God. Um, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that is something that I go by daily. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I did it on my own multiple times, going to college. I didn't finish. Um, but with God, asking for his strength, for him strengthening me, I was able to finish this book. And so that's why. that quote, I'm sorry, the scripture is on the first page of my book, Philippians 4:13. I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Um, that is something that, of course, I learned because, I was trying to do things for so long on my own. Um, I had to learn what surrender truly meant, to give up everything that I wanted to do in my way, how I knew how to do it, and give it to God and allow Him to work through me. And that was so hard. At a point in time, it was so hard. Um, but just learning how to truly surrender to God and give it to God, and allow Him to work in me. There were so many things that I learned. I could just go down the list. But it was really just a spiritual journey for me, and deepening my relationship with God, because before I started to write my book again, I didn't really have a close relationship with God. So the book pretty much helped me learn so many things about Him, learning what love truly meant, learning how it felt, even stirring up some of my gifts, like seeing and dreaming and um, being able to hear His voice and certain things that I've not experienced in so long. And then the book also helped me to realize that healing is an ongoing process, and you can be healed. At a point in time, it felt like I couldn't heal from some of the things that I was going through. I would just put it in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, I'm good until, something triggers it. And then it's like, I'm not good.
Right.
Something is still wrong. So that was a thing for me as well. But again, the book was really a spiritual journey for me as well. And it showed me that God cannot be boxed as well. I put Him in a box. I put Him in a box. And once I took Him out the box, I saw all of His beauty, all of what He can do, in such a short time frame. I was amazed. So, like I said, it was a spiritual journey for me, in my walk with God.
I love it. You are dropping so many gems, so many good gems. And I could just, I didn't know you before, but I can truly see, that you are on the other side of it,
Yeah.
and truly free, and I love to see it. I love to see it.
Yes.
Um, what advice would you give someone who feels called to write their story, but they're afraid of being vulnerable, and being transparent in the way that you need to be to share your story? What advice would you give them?
Um, I would let them know that if there's something that they need to heal from, it takes time. That someone needs their story, to have grace. Give yourself as much grace as God gives you, not to be too hard on yourself. And just to let them know that we've all been through something, not to be shameful of it, because God is, of course, the potter. He created us. What can He not do? He can do everything but fail. So if He placed it on your heart to write, pray about it. Pray about it. Ask Him to give you strength. Um, Ask Him to guide you, guide your hand when you write, guide your mind, guide your spirit, guide your heart so that you can write to glorify Him. Um, I will also tell them to have patience as well. Sometimes writing takes a long time. It takes a long time, so don't be shameful if you get it done in the time that you wanted it to. Um, something.
Uh oh.
Yeah, it
Okay.
looks like it cut for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what
No
happened.
worries.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
back.
So I'll just tell them to just be patient with themselves, have grace, and then also pray about it,
Yeah.
and then surrender it to God. If He's nudging you to write about it, then go ahead and put the pen to paper. Give yourself grace, and know that God can do anything you.
Yes, yes. All right. Yeah, you get me excited. Excited. Are there any future books or projects that you're currently working on that you want to share with us tonight? If not, it's okay, but that you would like to share coming up.
Yes. So I do host events. They're pretty much women events. I have one coming up on Saturday. It is Mocktails and Encouragement. It is in my bio on my Instagram page at MissNysheaJ. I also have one of my bigger events coming in June, which is Prayer in the Park, where we get together, we play games, and then we come and do prayer all unified in one, um, praying to God for about 30 minutes. We do prayer for the nation, prayer for the youth, prayer for the elderly. We pray. We have a good time in the Lord. I also have another book coming. I cannot tell you the name, but I know God told me to write. But I would say just stay tuned for that. All of my updates are on my Instagram page at MissNysheaJ. I also have my website, which is MissNysheaJ.com. So if you want to stay updated with any of the events that I have up, I do about 4 events yearly. Most of them are free. So if you do want to join and just have a good time in the Lord and fellowship, and get loved on and encouraged, definitely come out. I would love to have you there. But that is pretty much what I have right now.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you so much for sharing your story and your heart with us tonight. Um, I really enjoyed the conversation. Like I said, you were dropping nuggets and gems, and I'm just so grateful that we got to have this
Yes.
conversation tonight. Um, don't forget, for those of you who are watching, thank you so much for those of you who have stayed with us for the entire broadcast. I really appreciate you. In the upper corner is the QR code. Grab a copy of the book. Scrolling across the bottom is her Instagram handle. You can go there and check out everything she has going on, and go ahead and follow so you can stay abreast of the things that are coming down the pike later as well. Um, Again, thank you so much. I
Thank you.
really appreciate you joining us tonight and just having a real open and honest conversation with us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And I just want to let you all see a copy of my book here. It is a thick book here, so it's a nice read. Definitely go to my website if you all want a copy. I also have some on hand. So if you're at any of my events, I do have copies on hand that you can also purchase directly from me.
Nice. Awesome. Well, my dear, thank you again.
Mhm.
We are going to, let me see. Someone's asking, can you put the event information in the chat for this weekend, please? Is
Yes.
there, should she go to your Instagram? Is it up already?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So it is on my Instagram, and the link is in my bio.
Okay, okay. Miss Karen, I'll send you the information if you can't access it on Instagram. So I'll get that to you in a text message. Um, Thank you so much, Miss Karen, and thank you so much, Miss Robin, and Miss Trisha. Thank you so much for interacting in the chat. Again, thank you so much for being on tonight.
Yes,
We're
thank
going to
you for having
close
me.
things out. Is there anything that you want to close with? Anything you want to say? You got laid on your heart? You want to share with us tonight before we close?
Yes, I would just like to say to be encouraged. Spread love. Whatever you do it with love. Seek God first, surrender it all to Him. Keep praying, keep fasting, keep showing up. God is faithful. He is a keeper. He is a keeper. Whatever you're believing God for, keep believing Him. It will come to pass. I love you, and I thank you all so much for watching. Definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely. So if you just hang out in the backstage while I close things out. But again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, that was another episode of Behind the Pen. Thank you for all who joined tonight. Thank you for tuning in to Behind the Pen podcast. If tonight's conversation encouraged you, inspired you, or helped you in any way, please share this episode with someone who may need it. And I know that we all know personally or know of someone who needs to hear the message that was shared tonight. You can also follow Behind the Pen and the VTF Collective for more conversations with powerful authors who are using their voices to change lives. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the VTF Collective and under Behind the Pen. So remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and sometimes the very thing you survived is the message someone else needs to hear. Good night, everyone, and we will see you next time on Behind the Pen.